What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of What's Happening with Najee. Tonight we have a very, very special guest. Jazz, we know a lot of people, the same people, whenever they see us together, see us in a picture or whatever it is, they're always like, oh, how do you know Jazz? How do you know Jazz? So we're going to nip that out the bud right now. I have known Jazz my entire life because we are cousins. um, Her mother and my grandmother are sisters, so therefore we are cousins. But I look at you like a sister. When I introduce you to people, I'm always like, "This is my sister cousin." That's just how our relationship is. So, Jazz, say hi to the people.
Yo, people, what's up?
People, what's up?
People, what's
So
up?
today we are going to get a little deep on this episode of What's Happening with Naj. Today we are really going to get into the conversation of sexuality. Um, So I think most people who watch this know we are pretty open with our sexualities. We own it within our sexuality. But what a lot of people don't know is that we come from a very, very, very religious family. And then when I say religious, I'm speaking on like there are pastors, there are deacons, there are, our family grew up in the church. And if I'm not mistaken, when I think back on it, I think we are like, I could be wrong, but I think we are like the first openly, where I'm
Definitely.
getting. I feel like we are. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, when I think back of our family history, with you being the first and me being the second, um,
Yeah.
I think we are the first to, openly out with our sexualities. Um, so we're just gonna talk about that. What it was like growing up. When did we know? Things of that nature. So I guess I'm gonna start it off with something, really simple. Like, just when did you know that at a point where you just knew you were different? Because I'm pretty sure it was a young age, right? So at a young age, you
Yep.
just feel like you're different. So when was that point in time for you?
That's exactly what it was. It was a moment where really my peers were like, "Oh, he's cute and I want to do this." And I'm talking about early. So maybe about the first grade
Oh, wow.
where yeah, where peers like my friends were like, "Oh, I like him or I want him to be my boyfriend, the do you like me, yes or no type of thing." And I'm like, well, I don't desire to ask anybody that question.
Right.
Like, I'm not trying to send a note over there. So, full transparency, I came home from Scott Joplin and I asked my dad, like, why? And I started the sentence, why? And I changed the subject. Now I'm first grade.
That was going to ask, was this
Seriously,
still first grade?
still first grade. So I knew then because of like you don't see it, there's no representation.
Yeah.
You don't even know what to call it. You just know that there's a difference between that separate you and everybody else that's maturing and growing up. So definitely knew really, really, really early. Interests were always different. And that kind of just, led the path. And as you start to act in that, you
Yeah.
get the I don't do that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not right.
It's
Change this.
yeah, that's not normal. That's not normal. That's not
Right,
how this works.
right. So
Okay. For me, I wouldn't say it was that early. So when you said first grade, I was like, oh, wow. But some people, they know that early. For me, I was maybe sixth grade, but I guess I was showing signs of it because, like, I didn't think of it. Because in my mind, I didn't want to date girls, I didn't want to date boys, I didn't want to date anybody. I was just, living life as a kid. So
right.
I guess as I got older, and my mom had told me stories. Her and my auntie just knew it was coming just from my demeanor and my behavior as a young child. But for me, I just was being myself. I didn't really think much of it at such a young age. So with you, feeling like it was first grade. It was first grade when you realized that you were different. Um, when did you start to act on it? I guess as far as like, I don't even want to say act on it. Like, at what point did you come out,
Ooh,
or did you ever come out, or was it just like this is me, and this is it is what it is?
12, 13.
12,
Because
13.
I was forced to define like, okay, what are you? What's going on? What are you doing? Obviously, things were different from the normal 11, 12, teen, whatever.
Yeah.
So, what they call normal. And it was just a moment where I was like, I'm Jasmine. I didn't want you to put me in this box because I didn't know what that box meant. Like, I'm Jasmine. This is a conversation with my mom,
That's
you
what I
know?
was gonna ask. Now, was this
Yeah.
your mom? Was it your sisters? Well, who? Okay,
Nah, it was my mom first, and she's like, what is it? Well, what do you like? I'm like, I'm just Jasmine, and I just didn't want the to be labeled, and then for them to assume I fit into this box.
right,
So I just said I was Jasmine, but 13, 12, 13,
okay.
and that's yeah.
And how did she take that? Like, did she just was like, okay, she's just Jasmine. Like, that's just it is what it
Immediate,
is.
immediately, it was something is causing this. So for her, it was like, okay, I need to tie this to there's a cause to this, cause to action, how she looked at it.
Yeah.
Clothes, friends, all of that was a cause, right? So what do? You try to remove it, and that didn't work, unfortunately. I mean, for her, unfortunately. So
Is that something like you tried to remove it, or was it something like your mom?
no, she tried to, it was okay, well, I'm not buying these clothes, or I'm not going to you need to hang around different people or hang around different
Mm,
friends. And you try to associate it with basketball and all of that stuff, and it was like none of that matters. Like, I love the game. I don't love the game because it gives me exposure to like more openly gay people. It was more
right.
so like I just love the game. But she needed it to tie to something
Hmm.
at that moment. So she tied it to the clothes and then whoever was around at that time.
Okay. So, like, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, like our families grew up, in the church and pastors, deacons, everybody singing in the choir and everything like that. However, our upbringings was a little different just because, my mom was never the type to, force religion or take her religion and put it towards specifically my lifestyle. So I think like that's where we defer as far as like upbringings within the family. You know how my mom is. She's very like, it's your life. You live it how you want to live it. No one can
Yeah.
tell you any different. So for me, she kind of approached me the same way, but I kind of got myself caught up just from like, curious preteen Googling stuff and not deleting the history and, curious mothers like, okay, I want to know what my son is up to. And she sees
Right.
that. So she calls me in her room and she's just like, what's going on? Like, what is this? Do you have anything you want to tell me? So of course, I burst into tears and you know how that goes. And it's just, oh, I like both. And I feel like that's something everyone who comes out, that's like just the go-to with it. And she was just like, okay, that's fine. And I cried and on her shoulder. And she was just like, well, I don't know why you're crying because I love you no less. Um, However, that was the only time I ever came out to somebody. I never had to come out to anybody again because my mom, set the record straight with everybody and was just like, this is what he is. You guys are gonna respect it. We're not gonna speak on it. That's just where it's at.
Right.
With my brothers, my sister, even with my grandma, like my grandma, just like your mom, they sisters. She called me and she was just like, I know. And I was like, I know. And that was the last conversation we ever had about it. Like it was, and I
Good.
don't think even if they didn't agree with it, I just feel like people did not want to feel the wrath of Kia for messing with her child. So I didn't have to worry about anybody. And if they did say anything, out of pocket, she corrected it like right off jump. So I never had to, defend that part. Whereas I feel like it probably was a little different, as far as like coming out and, accepting your sexuality for what it was. Like, was that the case?
Yeah, it wasn't always there was definitely no crying on the shoulder,
Yeah.
no consoling. And I think part of it was because I had a lot of rebellious moments at the same time. You
Oh, did you
know,
really?
oh yeah. Like I said birdie on through there. Like I mean, I did.
Yeah.
I tell my kids and my youth all the time, like, what you see now. Like, I get it, but it's definitely not who I was back then. So being in your shoes, I sent my mama through there. So I think all of that wrapped into it for her was like, all right, it's all associated with one thing. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like for her, she was like, I don't want you to do any of it because it got you doing this, lying and, drinking, smoking, whatever. She was like, I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
Um, but she had to find out because there was one moment where she told me, go to school. She told me I'm not buying these clothes, whatever. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna prove to you that it's not associated with any of that. And I went to school, and because of the change, I got more attention. It was
Mhm.
like, okay, you want me to go to school, dress differently? Perfect. Went to school, got more attention, and I was like, here you go. And I think she found like some letters or something in my pocket. And it was to the point where she wanted to know, okay, what is it? And I remember the very first time we were able to have a conversation about what do I like about women? Why do I like women? And for her, I had to explain like one, it's nothing that you could control. I think some parents want to see like, did I go wrong,
Yeah.
in my parenting? Did I
What I could have
expose you
done
to
differently.
yeah, I mean, it's all these things. They just need to tie it to a cause. And I just was like, it's not you. It's not you at all. And from there, I mean, at the end of the day, she's been the most supportive. And it's the same thing. We don't have to talk about it,
Yeah.
it just is what it
It's
is.
her baby at the end of the day. It's
Yep.
just that's just what it is.
Yep.
Okay, that works. Now, how did your sisters react? Because you are the youngest of three, and how did they react to the whole, coming out on your sexuality? And
My,
because for me, like younger, like I didn't notice any of that like rebellious things because there is a little bit of age difference. It's not a big age difference, but there's a little age difference between us. So like that whole like rebellious stage you went through, I like when you just hit that, it stood me up because I don't recall any any of that like
oh
whatsoever.
yeah.
I just don't recall it. Um, so how were your sisters? Were they like super supportive, or they trying to like like, oh, it's fine what you're doing, it's just the way to go about it? Like how were they with it?
One wasn't around, as you know. Charleon was already gone. So there's a nice amount of years between us. But she was already gone, and
Okay.
you know she was a parent already, so she was dealing with that. Um, but Kiana was more so like so basically, you weren't gonna tell me, and why did I have to find out the way I found out? So it was more of a, I thought we were better than that. You come to
Yeah.
me. I found out from the streets, sort of thing. So I think it was for her. It was coupled with getting caught off guard
Yeah.
with some information that didn't come from my mouth, and I was
Yeah.
like, all right, whatever.
Especially with her being, your big sister. It's like,
Right.
why didn't you feel comfortable enough to come and tell me?
Yeah. I
Well, my
told
mother didn't give me a chance to tell anybody because she had told everybody. You know how my mama is. She
she had to
talks, but
protect you.
like I said, she nipped it in the bud. She was just like, it is what it is. You accept it,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it rolls. So coming out, you're dealing with everything in the household. And at one point, did you feel like you were going to receive backlash from like society or classmates or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, because that's really what I was told. You don't know how hard it is. This you making life harder on yourself, and it's like, for me, I'm like, how am I making life harder on myself by just being
Right.
myself? Being true to myself. But so I'm stepping out into this world where I'm looking for the hardships. I'm looking for the disrespect. Like literally, like peeping outside, looking for it and expecting it. But as the years went by, I'm like, I didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
But that's what was
Especially
told.
like in adulthood. I mean, you just don't,
Yeah.
it's not a thing. And I think that's what a lot of parents feel like they can't protect their kids, with the wrath of society, based off the lifestyle that we live. Um, so I think that's like one of their biggest worries, I guess, so to speak. But for like me, my mom, she was like, she always gave me like when I officially came out to her, she gave me that freedom that she was just like, I can't teach you, how to survive in it, because I guess way back when Uncle Jerome, you know, lived the lifestyle, and my mom seen how he lived the lifestyle, and she was just kind of like, I can't teach you to, survive in that atmosphere. So she gave me all the freedom in the world to go out and explore and to find myself. And I'm very appreciative and I'm very thankful that she gave me that freedom. But I feel like in a way it's a little harder for men, just because, I've been called more fags than, I can count. So if anything, it's helped me build that really tough exterior to the point where now it doesn't faze me. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but you'll hear that if I'm out with friends, and you may hear that one random person at the bar or at the grocery store say something out of pocket, and you kind of just brush it off. In high school, however, uh, hadn't even come out yet, but my demeanor just, I guess my demeanor just said, like, it's obviously he likes dudes. And I think I had like got my cartilage pierced and stuff like that. And it was like the talk of the hallways for a minute. And, it was just like, oh, Khalil's gay, Khalil's gay, Khalil's gay, blah, 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 blah. And I had like a really tight group of friends who would defend me like crazy. And they would just be like, even though they knew I was, but until I came out and said, that was the case, they were like, no, he's not, leave him alone, stuff like that. So I definitely feel like it's a little more difficult for men, especially in the Black community, because they have like this stigma and this image that men should uphold. And I guess, as a gay male, you can't uphold the image that they want to instill in us. So it was a little difficult, but overall, that freedom that my mom gave me, kind of, gave me that tough skin to deal with it. So like I said, I'm just very appreciative of her for that. Um, and as far as like family goes, I don't think anybody's ever said anything to me about it. I don't think I've ever had the conversation with anybody about it. And I don't know if it's just because, like I said, they don't want to feel the wrath of Kia, or they just don't know what to say. But I don't think anybody has ever said anything. Now that I think, actually, they have. Now that I think about it, but that's a conversation for another day, and I don't want to put Encore out like that. But yeah. So like for college, because went to college, and that's how we know a lot of the same people.
Right.
Always like, how do you know jazz? Every time I post you. How was that? So you're finally out of the house, and you have this freedom to spread your wings and live the way you want to live. Like how was that for you?
Freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom. I mean, I can honestly say that's when you truly define for you, not necessarily the box. Because high school, it was still like, for me, I had to be like the couple, like the few that were just out, out. So in college, it was like, all right, this is a breeze. I just show up
So you
as
were
me.
actually like out in high school, like you were out.
Oh yeah,
Oh really? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Not me.
Um,
I commend you for that.
it was, I mean, and that's the thing. I look back and I think about it and all the things that I was expecting because of what I heard. Oh,
Yeah.
society and people do this and people do that. People, get abuse. And it still happens to this day, abuse and harassment. I get it. I just did not experience that, but I literally stepped outside looking for it and
Yeah.
expecting it because that's what I heard. But I didn't go through that. I had my close friends who were like, all right, finally,
Yeah.
we know now. Like you said it, we knew, but we just waited for you to say it.
Yeah.
That supported me through high school. And I was very vocal with any male, right? Any male that cared about me, had a tight relationship with friendship. I was very honest. Like, look, I like your style. I like hanging with you, but this is only going so far. And I think just being true to that really helped me navigate the high school space. So going into college, it was like, all right, this is just the next level, but I'm
Yeah.
still
Right. Scared of you. Go ahead. I don't think I came out in high school until maybe like the very, very end of senior year. So like I was still dating girls and took a girl to prom, and I don't yeah. I was but I was still like doing my thing on the side as far as like venturing out and getting to know guys. And I remember dating a guy, or we were conversing, trying to get to know each other. He had a girlfriend and I had a girlfriend, but we were like conversing with each other to the point where like feelings were involved. So then it got to a point where I was just like, okay, well, this isn't fair to that young lady. So I need to be open and honest about that, and that kind of like pushed me to come out. But by the time I came out, I mean, it was like prom, graduation. It was like at that point I was no longer in high school. Um, but I will say, as I've gotten older, like the sexuality thing has shifted a little bit. I don't even identify as gay anymore. Like I don't. Like I just, I've come to the realization that I am just a lover of people, and that's
Yeah.
just how it is. And I've had that conversation with my mom, like really deep conversations, that most people probably wouldn't have with their parents, but how my mom is. So, and she's helped me
So,
come to that realization that I am a lover of people. So I think with me coming out, it was just me wanting to explore that side that I had never explored before. And as an adult, being so open and freely with my sexuality, kind of molded me into being, this pansexual dude you see in front of you. So I don't know. It's just sexuality is weird, I guess. It's just a very interesting topic, and I just felt like if we were going to talk about sexuality, there was no one better to talk about sexuality than with my sister cousin. And
I think sexuality is I think it's something that's self-defined. Like we go back, we talked about the beginning, and I started to talk about like for me, I just wanted to be Jasmine. I didn't want the labels, regardless of what definition, what
yeah,
you want to call it. It was like, why do I have to fall into this umbrella? You know what I mean? And I think it comes full circle because you back to that when as an adult. It's like, all right, I don't need to be labeled,
yeah.
right? I don't. You
I
don't
think
need
it's just
to.
a society thing. Like I think it's just like, especially like when I go back to just the black community, like the whole like expectation to come out, identify yourself. Like it's very weird to me. Like I don't understand why that is so. There's so much pressure for someone to come out and say, I like boys, or I like girls, or I like whoever the hell I like. I don't understand it. And the pressure behind that is like, because I don't remember any of my siblings coming out and was like, I'm straight. I can't recall. Can't recall.
It's funny because I was really trying to figure out like how our conversation will navigate tonight, right? And I was thinking back like it's about this like permission. Everybody want you to define this because that way I know.
Yeah,
So if you define something for me, it helps me understand how maybe I should act or whatever it is. But if we don't treat it that way, you just be you, I be me, and we all good. And I think it's too many times we have to like help somebody else figure out how they want to be. And it's never really us. So the way I look at it is that it was never me, it was never you or anybody else that needed to announce. It was more so I'm helping you be comfortable, right?
yeah.
Being who you need to be or act how you need to act. And you deal with that, but I'm gonna be over here and I'm still the same person. And I think that's the problem with our community.
It's like it's just yeah. I don't I don't really understand it. It's it to me it's kind of traumatizing, and it like forces people, especially at such young ages, you know, a kid who's in grammar school or high school who's, receiving all this backlash because he has a little switch in his walk, or, he's, hanging out with, majority females, and he has a little feminine ways to him, and he's receiving all this backlash, people want to label him, and he probably doesn't even know what's going
Right.
on. Like, it's like for years I didn't, like I said, I didn't think about sexuality. It wasn't until I got older and being around certain people, and I started noticing things a little different. I'm just like, wait a minute, what's going on? But
Hmm.
I still didn't understand it. I didn't, like, even when I had that conversation with my mom, I didn't really like even telling her like I like both. I didn't really know. I just felt like I had to say something at that moment because it was
Yeah.
finally brought to me by her. and I couldn't just tell her. Like for me, I didn't feel like I could tell her like I don't know. I don't think that at that moment when it happened, I didn't think that was an option. Which it
Yeah,
probably would have could have been, but I just
didn't feel like it
like
was.
yeah, I didn't think thinking back, I like both. And honestly I had no idea. I was still trying to
That's what
figure
it
it out.
was. I mean, for me, I agree with you. Like it's all about placing in that box. So if you tell me in this particular box, I have to, turn left 3 times, jump up and down 4 times, and then bow down twice, every single time I'm gonna do exactly that.
Yeah,
Right? Because that's what you're saying. In order for me to be in this particular box, I have to do those things. I think that's how it is with sexuality. Because it's not self-defined, most times people are defining it based on somebody else's perception.
yeah,
So, you know, that's the part that I am proud of. People ask all the time, like, what are you most proud of? It's nothing other than honestly deciding at a young age that, hey, I'm not going to sit here and put myself in a box. You can,
yeah,
and that's on you. But you'll be surprised that I don't fit your box because I still blow minds when I can. If somebody see me, they'll be like, "Oh, you can walk in heels." I can, but because you put me in a box, you assume that I
yeah. You
couldn't. You
assumed,
know,
yeah,
you assumed I couldn't. Or if they see me, even now from my birthday, like, "Oh, you had your shirt all open." Yeah, that's because you put me in a
you looked
box.
amazing by the way. You look great.
Thank
You
you.
look great.
Like they put me in a box, so you wanted me to have on some oversized jersey or something like that. So anytime that I don't fit the box, I'm questioned,
Yeah.
and it's not because I question me, it's because it's confusing to the other person because it doesn't fit their perspective. It's not about us at all.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, especially, in high school trying to figure it out. And like I said, we come from a family of, heavy churchgoers. And one person who I was very, very scared to find out was my grandma. Because you know how me and my grandma, we were like thick as thieves. You seen Gwen, you seen Khalil, right? With his arm around her leg. That's just how it went. So I never ever wanted to have that conversation with her because we know how my grandma was a Bible thumper, and that's just what it was. She was. She was going to shove that Bible in your face every chance she got. That's just how she was. So I just
Yep.
knew that it would not go the way I wanted it to if she found out. So I was very shocked that she left it so vague with just, I know. And I was just like, I know. And that was literally the last time we had ever talked about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to this day, I feel like I wish we could have had a deeper conversation. Unfortunately, she's no longer here, but I wish we could have had that conversation. Um, there is a part that feels like our relationship suffered a little bit from not having that conversation, especially when she moved to Texas. Because at that point, I'm living this life of walking and traveling ballroom, being in that culture, and she would ask questions about it, and I didn't really have answers for her. Like what I was partaking in, I was still trying to discover myself. So I definitely feel like, leading up to the days when she was no longer here, our relationship really suffered from not having that conversation. So I think having those conversations, or just like having, the older generation, especially, you know, taking acknowledgement or just learning versus just sweeping it under the rug, because I feel like sweeping it under the rug can really damage relationships. And I feel
Yeah.
like it really damaged the relationship I had with my grandma not having that conversation like we probably should have.
I mean, what I can say, being before you, I've
Yeah,
never, same thing. Was like, you ain't his baby. You don't always be my baby. And
yeah,
you been my baby before you was your mama's baby. That's her
yeah.
quote, right?
Right.
Like she had you,
Well,
but
y'all
she
like
was your
birthday
baby.
twins, so of course she's gonna say that. Y'all share
Yeah.
birthdays.
Yeah. It was like your mama had you, but you my baby. And I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, understood, expect, accept it. But never came to me with, you need to do this, you need to do that. It was more so like even Granny. uh, to be honest, was like, look, whatever you do, whoever you choose to be the best at it. You know, if she gave me examples, but I won't say, but like, if you're
Yeah.
gonna do it, if you're gonna do it and
Yeah.
you're gonna be it, you be the best at it. And that's just that sense of confidence. Like, all right. And this was before college. So as I'm going to college, I have my grandmother supporting, like, look, we don't have to have this long, drawn out conversation. This ain't my first rodeo with understanding and knowing what's going on. But if you're gonna do it, you're gonna be it. Be the best at it. You know, be you, be respected, and just honestly, don't let that be your only definition of self. And I mean, to this day, that's just how I live.
I don't know. I feel like it's different sometimes when it's someone's child or it's their grandchild versus you being just her niece. I feel like it's just a little bit different. I feel like
Yeah,
so like even her telling you my baby, you always gonna be my baby. There was none of that. It was just very I know, and I was like I know, and then that was it. That was just it. We never
yeah,
talked about it again. But at that moment, I honestly felt like it was a little distance, and I regret it to this day. Not being able to have those conversations with her and kind of help her understand it a little bit more
yeah.
because I really feel like she didn't get it. So
I try to
that's probably
extend
one
grace.
big regret I have.
Yeah, I try to extend grace because of their examples of those they knew who were open and openly being themselves, living a lifestyle. I think that their exposure was exactly what I did not grow to see or yet to see, which is what society had to offer. And I think that fear for somebody who is a grandchild or a child is strong. And for them, we're showing them that that's not what's happening. You don't
Yeah,
have to fear that, even though it may happen, somewhere else. But because
it's
you're
not the
through,
case for everyone. Yeah,
it's not the case for everyone. I think that's just the educational piece. Because if you only know um, one way to get a dollar, that's all. It's all you know, and that's exactly what it was. It's like they only knew of the examples they had and were shown, and that was just really fear. Like, I don't want my child or my grandchild to experience this, but we're showing them now like it's not the case for everybody.
I'm all about the educating. I'm all about educating and ask questions that you don't understand. And I feel like the more we communicate, the better off we all are.
Yeah,
Versus just sweeping things under the rug and just saying you accept it for what it is when you really don't. I think
yeah,
that's like the big problem for me, at least.
yeah,
Um, but like I said, I had a different experience. My mother was never like, you're not my child because that's the life you want to live. She was just like, if you're gonna live it right. And she gave me that freedom to figure out who I was, and I'm very grateful for that. And which is probably why we're so close to this day. And I know friends who experience are a little bit different, unfortunately.
yeah,
So, but like I said, it's weird. I feel like the whole sexuality conversation, even today, like when you think about it, and lawmakers want to take gay out of schools, and it's just all weird to me. And
yeah,
I just hope that one day we get better. It's just able to. And one thing I will say is that the newer generation, I always forget what they call, not us millennials. What they call
the
them?
next. I don't
X.
know what letter they on.
They like XYO, something like that. Whatever they are,
Yeah,
they really give me hope because they are very very vocal and they're very open and they own their sexuality. That's like I see kids like that on TikTok, and there's no way in hell I probably would have dressed the way they dressed in high school and living out and living proud the way they are now. So it really gives me hope for the future when I see stuff like that. So like I feel like every generation is breaking those barriers to the point where we get to a point we don't even have to have these conversations about like
yeah,
coming out and what do you identify as and like
yeah.
all that other bullshit that society wants. So it's It's a toss up, I guess.
I like to think that I could have saved myself a lot of headache and heartache had I been given the opportunity to just live. You know, when you think about it, you learn everybody have their first heartbreak, right? But you learn about relationships and how to navigate through relationships through actually going through those relationships. It's
Right.
not something you could just read and be like, all right, I got it. It's the experience. Well, unfortunately, when you're forced to suppress something or be in a box, you don't get that same exposure. So you have a lot of us who are growing to be adults that's going through things that we should have definitely been able to navigate through at the ages through our teen years.
Yeah.
We didn't get that opportunity because it was like, don't do this, don't do that. It's not accepted here. You know, you do what I say, and that's it. And it's really unfortunate because some people that said it wasn't accepted turn around 10, 15 years later and accept it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now I'm, you know, going on 50 trying to figure out how to take that heartbreak, and I could have avoided that. So if I honestly can give any type of words from, my position now to anyone with a kid who probably expressed some sort of interest or just anything or different, um just let it flow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because trying to put these barriers and constraints on, you're really making the matter worse.
Yeah.
But then in turn, you're not really teaching. And it's like, all right, what are we doing with what this child is presenting to you? Like, if I said I like the color red and you want me to like blue, it's I'm still gonna grow up and buy all red clothes at the end of the day. So do you want to get on board through the process and be support, or do you want to be forced into something and then eventually getting on board? But I have years of heartache and oppression and all these things of not being supported that could have been avoided. And I think that's really key.
That was very deep. I mean, it's all a journey. Like it's a journey that deserves to be traveled by that certain individual to figure out, figure themselves out and learn about themselves. Because I'm
Yeah.
28 and I still learn things about myself every day. So it's a journey. So
Yeah.
that's
And
I
that
don't know.
that's
It's
the difference between religion and faith. Since we're talking about coming from, a background and a family of literally, I think all of Granny's kids except for one, or no, two, were ministers.
yes,
Or yeah, in
that's
some
true.
aspect, right?
Yeah,
Um, so it's like if a journey is about the faith piece, not religion. Religion teaches you tradition. Religion teaches you the do's, don'ts, right, wrong. But that faith piece is the relationship. And I would never know how to lean on my faith if I don't go through the journey and trust the process. And that process is going to take me through things that it may not take the next person through. But as long as it's our own personal journey, I think we can lean on that and remove the stigma of what we're saying, the black family and black community.
it's gonna be a tough one, but I feel like the black community we'll get it together eventually. It's a challenge, but I mean, every time I look up, it's a different story of a kid, going through a struggle of being disowned,
Yeah,
being called slurs or whatever the case may be,
yeah,
by people who should love you regardless. If your favorite color is red and they want you to like blue, I mean, they should really love you regardless, and it's
yeah.
heartbreaking, but it's reality.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for, I don't know what struggles my mom endured with, supporting and just being there and being a mother first.
Yeah,
I don't, she's never told me that, oh, this was said at the church. I can just imagine, right?
yeah,
Especially if you're open, that I just be like, whatever, You want to follow me on social media? Here we
I
are,
can
right?
only imagine the amount of things people have went back and told my mom that they seen me post on social media, or
Listen,
like, yeah, I think I had like when I first came out, and a close friend of mine, a guy, like kissed me on the cheek, and I like put the picture on like Instagram or something. And I think some people came to her about it, and I remember my mom getting on Facebook, and she just said, "Look, I don't need you coming to tell me what my child has posted. I follow my child. I know what my child is doing. My child has my blessing. So let's just leave it at that." But I can
yeah,
only imagine, like you said,
yeah.
the things people probably came to your mom about, especially with her being a minister. Just like, I can only imagine.
Not ever, 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 ever has she set me down and said, listen, this person's saying this person's saying that. When I say a true champ was never, 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 ever, ever came to my ears. So if it's out there, that's where it stayed out there because
Yeah,
it
out
never,
there.
it never came this way and it never changed the way that, she treated me nor whoever I was with at the time. My mom was never, ever like, shut anybody down. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to meet you. More so is okay if you're around my child. What type of influence are
Yeah.
you? You know what I
Very.
mean?
What
Are
are
you?
your intentions?
Yep. Are you making her better? Are you invested in her happiness? Like that's where she come from first. Everything else is secondary.
Well, I don't think I've ever brought anybody to meet my. I think I brought one person to meet my mom in my entire life, and she shook his hand, and the moment he drove off, she was just like, she was like, he ain't shit, and I was just like, I was like, okay. And granted, she was right. She was right. And
Wait,
to this day, I think he thinks like he is literally one of her favorites, and my mom like hated him. The moment she shook his hand, and he drove off. She was just like, mm-mm, that's not it. So I don't think I've ever introduced, because I know she's gonna be very honest about it, and she's real big on energy. And you know my mom, you know how she is. It's just between her and Kay, I just, yeah. Let me
that's
make
why
sure let me feel the future first before I bring you around. Because if they don't feel it, they're gonna tell me.
I'm telling you. That's why strategic. I'm telling you, some strategies to this. Everybody meet your mama first. That is
I
the
won't have nobody left. I feel like I just, I just
talking about for me. For me, I present. Listen, this is cousin Kia. Here you go, and
oh yeah,
I leave the room. I just leave the room. I gotta go to the store. I gotta wash the car. I gotta do something. But by the end of that, whatever conversation interaction, I will know if you
oh
are.
yeah, because she gonna tell you like it is. I'm
Yep.
telling you this. And I think one other time I was arguing with somebody I was dating at the time on the phone, and she was in the other room. And when I hung up, she was just like, "What the hell?" She was like, "Whoever that is, you don't need to be with them." Like, she was like, "I don't even know what y'all was arguing about, but y'all don't need to be together." And I was like, "Okay, mom,
I love it.
I heard you. I heard you loud and clear." So I don't. I've never brought anyone. And if you want to date me at some point, you're gonna have to get through that woman, and I pray for you, because
Yeah.
she's not easy to get through. Just a heads up. She don't play, especially about her kids. So good luck to that lucky person out there that feel like we have a future together. Good luck.
You have
And
not
then
passed the test.
once you get through her, you got to get through my sister, and this she
It's,
probably gonna be worse.
it's levels to it. So if you get the approval from both of them, that's
Oh,
tough.
that's yeah. I might have to go
That's
shopping
tough.
for a ring right after that if you can get through both of them. I think
Next.
it may be it may, it may be calling for it. I don't know. But so we're gonna end it with words of encouragement for that young person who's probably watching this and feels, defeated or doesn't feel loved, and who is going through some really tough hardships trying to figure it out, and they don't have that support and that shoulder to lean on from, family. What would you say to that person?
Look in the mirror, turn off the noise, and whatever it is that you feel and comfortable with, that's what you do. That's
Period.
it. You gotta
Short
be,
and simple.
yeah, you gotta be comfortable with what's in the mirror first before you try to deal with what everybody else feel, has to say, think you should be doing, because you'll forever be lost. navigating life through somebody else's lenses. So you have to do it and start with self.
Period. You
Yeah.
gotta. I feel like it's all about loving yourself, and
Yep.
when you figure out, and it's so corny because I feel like people say this all the time, but it's so true that if you cannot love yourself, you can't love nobody else, and that is like that's very very accurate. So I would just say, you know, take it one day at a time. Put the focus on you, and you try to figure out who you want to be in this journey called life. Regardless of the hardships you may come across, just know one day those pieces of that puzzle will come together, and you're gonna look back on all those hardships and just realize that you went through all that to become that shining diamond, that shining diamond you are meant to be. So just like I said, take it one day at a time because it's not
Yeah.
easy. And the people who support you, hug them tight, keep them close, thank them for supporting you because a lot of people don't have that. They don't.
And the people who you're trying to satisfy and pacify most times are those who wish they had your courage in the first place. So you got to do what's right for you and live by that, stand by that, and demand the respect of that.
Right. Well, Jasmine, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
here. You are, I think, the first official guest after my mom, and that was a while ago. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I love you much.
Love you.
We're gonna take it with a signing off. Thank y'all so much for tuning in on this new episode of What's Happening with Naj, and we'll see y'all next week.